There was a lot of responses in the comments section on one of my previous videos about setting up some best rushing classes. So I went through all the different various weapons and put together a few classes that I think are the best currently for rushing within Modern Warfare. Obviously, I'm going to be ranking these a little bit off my preferences, so if you think I missed one, make sure you do comment that down in the comment section below, so maybe somebody will come across it and go ahead and try it for themselves. I think at this point in Modern Warfare's life cycle, I think most people playing the game have a good understanding that rushing isn't the dominant playstyle. Obviously, everything they've done within the game, regardless if it's the mini-map, sprint out time, the certain attachments actually slowing you down, is all geared towards playing a little bit slower, a little bit more passive. So although these are amazing rushing class setups, keep in mind that you're going to be at a disadvantage if someone is just pre-aiming a window, waiting for you to move while you are running around the map. So what I wanted to do first was kind of explain why I think these weapons are specifically geared towards rushing over some of the other weapons in the game. Then we'll go through each of these weapons individually, going from the 7th place spot, working our way through all the way to that top spot. And as I normally do with these types of videos, each of the weapons will have their own class setup specifically geared towards this rushing playstyle. If you want to take screenshots, there will be timestamps available in the description as well as in the comments section. Obviously, if you wanted to make any weapon have a really fast aim down sight time or speed up the sprint out time, all you would have to do is just put on those specific attachments that make the weapon move faster, ADS faster, and actually fire faster after the sprint. And I think there's people out there that probably do that generally on all their weapons, regardless of how it actually affects the weapon, just because they want to be as fast as possible. They don't care about the other stats like recoil, which is probably one of the most important things in terms of actually winning gunfights, because you do have to land those shots when you are within a gunfight. So the things that made it so that these weapons made it onto the list was that could you actually equip certain attachments to make it that much faster? And how usable was the weapon after the fact? So one thing I don't really talk about too much is ease of use, and that's one of the biggest factors I use when creating my class setups for individuals that are watching my videos, because obviously the top tier players, they can almost use anything. I think if you just gave me a random class setup, I could do well with it. And there's plenty of other good players, YouTubers, streamers that could do really well with those class setups and make them look good. But then when the average player actually tries to use those class setups, they get completely demolished because they're not at that skill threshold. So the 7th ranked rushing class setup is going to go to the M13, and I included in this class setup the tack laser, the stippled grip tape, the 50 round mags, the Tempest mini barrel, and the M13 skeleton stock. So even though the 50 round mag does slow it down just a little bit, I think the 50 rounds is necessary because typically this weapon is going to be 5 shots to kill. You're going to need that ammunition, especially if you're taking on multiple people. And even though it was recently buffed, this is still the SMG of the rifle category, so that's why I think it's really built for rushing. Even if you're not going with that suppressor and you're not going with that 300 blackout rounds, I think the overall power in this weapon is it's low recoil, it has good mobility, good aim down sight speed for a rifle, and that allows you to actually rush around with it. So taking the 6th ranked spot is actually the PKM, which is going to be a little bit surprising to people until you actually try it out. You guys got to try out the fast PKM class setup, which I've kind of showed off in a couple of my previous videos, but it includes the tack laser, the 18.2 inch barrel, the snatch grip, the stippled grip tape, and the no stock attachment. So obviously it's still an LMG, so you're not going to be able to have the same movement speed you're going to have with an SMG or with a knife or with a pistol or anything. But when you actually start using this, the aim down sight, the sprint out time is significantly faster with this set of attachments. So even if you come up against someone and they come around the corner, you will be able to aim down sight, fire your weapon, and you should be able to get the kill because the weapon is very high damage. It's also very low recoil, so even at range, you should be able to hit those shots. So initially, it might take a little getting used to because it is an LMG, but I guarantee once you give it a shot, you're really going to like this weapon regardless of the mode. So the next 3 weapons, it was actually a little bit trickier to rank which one was ahead of the other, because when I was kind of thinking of it, I was like, man, this one should go ahead of that one. No, that one should go ahead of the other one. At the end of the day, I kind of just said they're all tied for 3rd, 4th, 5th. So even though I'm going to say them in a certain order, keep in mind that these are essentially tied in my opinion. So the first one is going to be the Bizon, and the Bizon Rush class is pretty straightforward because it's not all that different from its standard class setup, because I think it is an all-around beast with a large ammo capacity, and I use the Corvus skeleton stock, the tack laser, the 8.7 inch aluminum barrel, as well as stippled grip and sleight of hand. So the Bizon ends up making the list because it does have that high ammo capacity, so you can take on multiple people without actually reloading. And that sleight of hand cuts that reload time significantly, so you can actually get back into it even if you just did finish off a little bit of a feed. On top of that, there's hardly any recoil. It's very easy to manage even if there is recoil. So having all these particular attachments that don't help the recoil in any way isn't all that bad, because you can actually land those shots. And this is one of those weapons that is great for hardcore as well. So if you're looking to just max this one out, get the challenges done, it is not a bad option, especially if you're going to jump into hardcore shipment, hardcore shoot house, or hardcore whatever the case is. So we're going to move a little bit further down the list, and this one again, it was kind of tied between these two, but we're going to talk about the M4 now. And the only reason the M4 is not taking the top spot is because of that ease of use. I think when you use this particular set of attachments, the recoil can be a little bit harder to manage, especially at those medium to long ranges. So the attachment you're seeing for the M4 in today's gameplay is no stock, tack laser, sleight of hand, stippled grip tape, and the commando barrel. And although I think that is a pretty good rushing class setup, I think this is better suited for 6v6 because it'll be a smaller maps and you won't get into as many engagements, especially with the ammo issue. If you are going to be playing 10v10 or ground war like I was, I'd probably recommend switching out the sleight of hand for the 50 round mag. And even though that will slow you down just a hair, I think the trade-off is definitely worth it, especially if you're going to be getting into a lot more engagements than just the 6v6. And I was actually surprised by this class setup because initially I thought the ease of use would be way harder than it actually was. Jumped into a match and I was able to hit people even at considerable range. I just kind of had to pepper my shots a little bit more, not full auto, because especially when I had the 30 round mag, you can't afford to miss those shots. But the mobility is nasty. The actual strafing speed feels very similar to what it was like to run the Stalker perk from MW3. So if you want to feel like you can actually move while aimed down sight and have relatively good recoil control, I highly recommend trying out this M4 rushing class setup. So next weapon we're going to talk about is going to be the MP5. This is again tied with the M4 and the Bizon in my opinion. The class setup we'll be using with this is the F-Tac collapsible stock, stippled grip tape, the 10mm auto 30 round mags, the tack laser, and the FSS mini barrel. And just like the M4, I think this class setup is better suited for 6v6 because of the slower reload time. You want to have a little bit faster reload time because you're going to be playing 10v10 or on ground war. I highly recommend switching out the tack laser for actually having that sleight of hand. And one little side note when it comes to the tack laser is the enemies can only see it when you're aimed down sight. If you're in a hip fire, you're not going to be able to see it. So if you're kind of at the edge of a doorway, you know the enemy's going to come through. That's why you have a little bit faster aim down sight time, so you can actually adjust for those scenarios. You're not giving away your position. If you're pre-aiming the doorway, the enemy is going to see the little green laser and they're going to know kind of where you're coming from, either on one side of the doorway. So just be aware, if you're going to use the tack laser, at least be aware of when you are and when you aren't visible to the enemy player. So now back to the MP5. In case you guys didn't know, the MP5 is the most dominant competitive weapon within Call of Duty. There's actually a pro league where teams of 5 compete against another team of 5, and 4 out of the 5 class setups are the MP5. The other class setup is the M4, or if they're playing Search and Destroy, maybe an M4 thrown in there with the sniper rifle, and that's pretty much all you see. That's just something I throw in there. I think the little bit of the lower ammo capacity kept this one from being the number 1 or number 2 on my list, and the main reason for that is the reduced ammo capacity when you're using those 10mm rounds, which deal extra damage at range. So with that, we're going to crack into the top 2, and with these 2 weapons, I actually think they're tied as well. I kind of had a hard time choosing which one would be second, which one would be first. So in no particular order, we're going to start off with the MP7 rushing class, and I was using the tack laser, no stock, stipple grip, sleight of hand, and the FSS strike barrel. And initially when I started playing with the class, I already kind of had an idea that it was going to be really good. I thought I'd probably miss the 50 or the 60 round magazine, but after I equipped sleight of hand, had the faster movement, I actually didn't notice it all that much, because you should be able to get 3, maybe even 4 kills within one magazine on a consistent basis, especially if you're pretty accurate. If you're not all that accurate, you might need the extended mags for this one, but in 10v10 it played quite well. I'm not sure exactly how it would work in ground war because this drops to like a 7 shot to kill at range, which isn't that great if you only have 40 bullets. So obviously it's going to come down to preference if you want to go ahead and swap those things out. Something to keep in mind with this particular weapon is it is one of the fastest weapons in the entire game, and I'm pretty sure with this set of attachments it's the fastest primary in the entire game, and if not the fastest, it's probably like top 2 or 3. It's very high up there in terms of speed. So this one is one I would definitely incorporate as part of your class setups. I think ease of use is relatively easy. It has almost no recoil even with this particular attachment. That kind of drops your recoil equipping that no stock. So we'll go ahead and jump into the number 1 weapon in my opinion, and that is going to be the Kilo Assault Rifle. And personally, the Kilo has to be one of the most disgusting weapons in the entire game. You can make it so it's a little bit slower, ultra low recoil. You could have that stealth class setup, or you could have this ultra rushing mobility class setup. So it's definitely versatile. The only drawback is the M4 and the RAM are better if you go into a head-to-head gunfight. That's why we're not seeing this one pop up in those competitive matches. The class setup featured in today's gameplay is that tack laser, sleight of hand, stipple grip tape, the 50-round mag, and no stock. And this one kind of surprised me just a hair. I thought it would be a little bit harder to manage, just kind of like I thought with the M4. But after I tried it out, it was relatively easy, and I was able to streak up pretty quick. So let me know down in the comment section which of these class setups you think you're going to try first. If you did enjoy the video, let me know by hitting that like button. And if you're brand new to the channel or you're part of that 80% that watches my videos but forgets to subscribe, definitely remember to subscribe with notifications on so you'll be able to find your way back for more Modern Warfare content. Appreciate all the support on the channel. Thank you for watching. As always, have a great day.